Now let's look at law enforcement's response to particular types of missing child cases. We'll use 3 separate scenarios to depict the most common situations. Let's begin with a non-family abduction, which occurs hundreds of times each year in the United States.
No, let's go down this way.
Hey, have you seen my little dog running around here? Sure, he's real little. He's brown, and I know he came up here. What, can you help me look for him?
Thank you.
Yo, where's Ryan?
No, he was somewhere. He didn't want to come back.
I don't see him down there on the swing. Ryan! Ryan!
Can I help you?
Yeah, mister, I can't find my son. He was playing on the playground, and I don't know where he is.
Okay,
now.
come with me. Come with me.
Help me, my child is missing.
Every parent's worst nightmare. Their child seems to vanish into thin air. When a child disappears under unusual circumstances, time is critical.
What direction was your son, or what area was your son last seen in?
He was down on the swing sets on the other side of this trees down
After
there.
taking the initial report, notify your supervisor and communications center immediately.
Aviation and K9 if they are available.
Have you guys searching this side?
Immediately contact other agencies and form a search party. Have the supervisor or search coordinator facilitate the process. Be sure to note the names, addresses, and phone numbers of all searchers. Keep careful note of the exact location where each person searched. The perpetrator may try to assist with the search, to throw you off track, or to discover what the authorities know. Consider vehicle searches and possibly set up roadblocks and/or checkpoints. In a non-family abduction, make sure you canvass the neighborhood thoroughly. Go back to homes you've missed or where the resident wasn't home during the original canvass. This could uncover some new or useful information. If your jurisdiction has an established AMBER plan, consider broadcasting the BOLO Bulletin right away. If your area doesn't have one, sound the alert on all appropriate law enforcement channels. For local and state agencies, use the interagency law enforcement system such as MILES. You'll want to utilize the National Law Enforcement Telecommunications Systems, NLETs, to alert other regional and federal law enforcement agencies. The overall response to a non-family abduction is the same as it is to a missing child, with some exceptions. An officer should be assigned to the victim's home to monitor the phones, trace and record all incoming calls. It might be a good idea to set up a separate cellular telephone for agency use. The investigating officer should compile a list of known sex offenders in the region, identify cases with similar MOs, and develop a profile on a possible abductor. You will want to consider using a polygraph for the parents and other key individuals to verify facts and rule out family involvement. Polygraphing is critical because most disappearances do involve a family member, and your limited resources need to be focused in the right direction. In situations like this, you'll want to act very discreetly. Make sure your NCIC missing person file is completed with all of the necessary information, including a complete description, along with medical and dental records. Update miles and NLETs as needed. if the case looks like it will take the form of a prolonged investigation, here's a checklist of things you'll need to go over. Revisit the crime scene. Re-interview all the key players in the case. Interview anyone in the area that could provide you with some additional information. This could include delivery personnel, employees of gas, water, electric, and cable companies, along with postal carriers, and anyone else that may have access to the area. Read and review all reports and transcripts of interviews. Review all potential witness suspect information and consider background checks on anyone identified in the investigation. Review all photographs and videotapes. Re-examine all physical evidence collected. Determine how you would handle reported sightings and leads. Review Child Protective Service records for reports of abuse or neglect on the child. Develop timelines and other visual exhibits. In the special case of an infant abduction, you'll want to investigate any claims of home births in the area. Make sure the media is kept abreast of the case and utilize periodic coverage. Identify a designated media spokesperson. Take advantage of the various award programs such as Crime Stoppers. Contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for photo dissemination, age progression, and other assistance. Contact other credible nonprofit missing children organizations. Update NCIC missing person file information as necessary. Now, we've gone over a great deal of information in the investigatory procedures involved in these types of cases, and hopefully they will conclude with a recovery. With that in mind, here are some things that need to be done when a missing child is recovered. Immediately arrange for a thorough physical examination of the victim. You'll want to conduct a thorough interview with the child using open-ended questioning techniques. Document the results and involve all of the appropriate agencies. Make sure you handle the reunion of the victim with their parents by utilizing the proper support services, such as counseling specialists trained in reunification. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, the FBI, nonprofit organizations, or other counseling agencies can assist you in this process. The workshop facilitator has many helpful suggestions on reunification, or call 1-800-VANISHED. Cancel all bulletins and alarms, contact all involved agencies, and remove the case from the NCIC. It's always a good idea to critique the cases when the investigation is complete. Debriefing can assess what aspects of the investigation were successful, as well as areas to improve upon in the future. But remember, no amount of critiquing can take the place of having a reasonable, well-established procedure before a tragic incident like this happens in your jurisdiction. Now we're going to look at the family abduction scenario, which occurs several 100,000 times each year. Remember to go through the same steps as in the initial response scenario.
Hey, girl. Come here.
I thought Mom was supposed to pick me up.
She's hurt. She wants me to come and pick you up. Throw your stuff in the back of the truck and come on. We gotta roll. Oh,
Hey, John.
hi, Alice. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Okay. Cindy wanted me to come and pick Kate up. She had to go to the doctor's. So I was going to pick her up, and then I'll drop her off to the house later tonight.
Okay. All right, take care.
Okay, Alice.
Bye-bye.
All right, see ya.
Dad, what happened to Mom?
Oh, hi. How are you?
Fine.
Are you okay?
Oh, I'm fine.
John said you were in the hospital.
John,
Your ex-husband.
He said that you were in hospital, that he was going to take her.
Was
Yes.
here
John was
with
here.
Kate
Yeah.
15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
He took her. He took her out of here. He left without my permission. I didn't tell him
I'm
he
going
could
to call
go.
the police right now, okay? All right.
I can't believe he's done this. This is taking it too far.
Hello? Hello? 911? My husband picked up my daughter without my permission. My child is missing.
The issues surrounding child custody and family abduction are complicated. Information you gather can determine the nature of the case, whether it's a civil versus criminal matter. First of all, there are some questions that need to be answered. Did the parent intend to abduct the child? Could a mistake or miscommunication between the parents have occurred? Or could the parent be expressing their anger at their former spouse through the children? Unfortunately, children are far too often the unwitting victims of parental conflicts. Let's explore the investigational considerations involved in family abductions. When writing your report, make sure it's accurate and concise. Obtain recent head and shoulder photographs of the abducting parent and child. Enter all appropriate information on the child into the NCIC missing persons file, along with any information on the abductor. If the child's life is believed to be at risk, use the NCIC child abduction flag when entering the child into either the endangered or involuntarily missing person category. The suspect's information should be entered into the NCIC wanted person file. Be sure to get a warrant as soon as possible. Make sure that all of the details of the case have been reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST and your state clearinghouse for missing children. When dealing with a family abduction, it's a good idea to examine court records such as criminal court, custodial, divorce, ex parte orders, etc. Verify all court orders. Don't depend solely on what is shown to you. After you've determined that this is an actual family abduction, talk to the state's attorney regarding an issuance of a state felony and an unauthorized flight to avoid prosecution or a UFAP warrant. To get the FBI involved, you must also contact the state's attorney's office. The agency should be kept abreast of all developments. Within the first 24 to 48 hours, conduct a background investigation on both parents, other close family members, and friends. Get the parent to sign a release of information to obtain the medical, dental, and child protective services records. If they refuse, consider obtaining a subpoena. Call the Child Protective Services as soon as possible to request a background check to see if the child was ever a victim of abuse or neglect. Be sure to identify yourself as a police officer that is, quote, conducting an active investigation, and state that you're trying to rule out foul play. You may also want to ask if the child is in the custody of social services. Speak to a supervisor if necessary. Consider establishing a telephone hotline and record all tips and leads. This can be done through your state clearinghouse for missing children or through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The last thing the primary patrol officer should do is establish a leads management system to prioritize leads and make sure that each lead is followed up. Many departments will establish a command center to accomplish this task. Also, it's a good idea to work closely with the left-behind parent in every step of the investigation. Be sure to have them provide a list of family, friends, and relatives who might provide you with additional information. Interview other family members, friends, and associates of the missing child. Find out when they last saw the child and what they think may have happened to them. Attempt to contact the abducting parent for their intentions, court orders, or ex partes. You'll want to evaluate any information that may lead to the location of the suspect parent. When you do locate the suspect, you'll want to coordinate the issuance of the arrest warrant with the state attorney's office and enter that information into NCIC Wanted Persons file. You also might want to consider the use of civil procedures, such as a writ of habeas corpus and a writ of assistance. You should offer the family support through this very difficult time. There are specific nonprofit missing children's organizations that can help. Check with the FBI, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or your state center for missing children for qualified human service agencies that could help with family support counseling. If abuse or neglect was involved, be sure the agencies have the know-how to treat such clientele. There may be cases that involve prolonged investigations, and there are some things that you'll need to do. First, you must obtain a state felony warrant. Next, if you have probable cause, you'll want to secure a federal UFAP warrant. To obtain a federal UFAP warrant, your state attorney must guarantee extradition and prosecution. It's also important that you flag all pertinent sources of information about the child, including school, medical, dental, and birth records. Good sources of information you'll want to look at should include the suspect parents' employment records, educational records, credit records and bureaus, Social Security information, change of address information through the Postal Service, driver's license information, past and current girl or boyfriends, spouses, acquaintances, parents, and so forth.